Hal, cut the music. Oh, I just got back from my trip to Jupiter. Oh, my hair's gotten so gray after all my travels. But I had to come back. My name is Michael Opheim, and I have a message for humanity. Technology. Our society revolves around technology. The sciences encompass an ever-growing field that is expanding exponentially. Now, what are some of the consequences to this advancement? Well, you can see in two movies that we have watched, 2001: A Space Odyssey and Gattaca, that AI and eugenics, respectively, could be a major consequence of this scientific advancement. These are my two main points that I'm going to focus on in this speech. Now, first I need to start by talking about the history. History is the most important foundation that we can use. It is the best teacher, and it'll give us a sense of whether or not these sciences are plausible in reality. So let's start off with Gattaca and eugenics. So Gattaca, as you know, is a society that revolves around genetics. They idolize genetics. Now, I can think of one example that comes to mind when I think of eugenics and the idolization of eugenics. And that's Nazi Germany. And obviously, that was a very severe moment in history in which many were sterilized and, if not sterilized, killed. Thousands and millions. Now, the law at the time in Nazi Germany stated specifically that sterilization was done to prevent the procreation of degenerate persons with inferior hereditary potentialities. Now, that sounds very similar to what they did in Gattaca, in which you could choose which babies you wanted to have be born. You could choose their genetics or their chances of heart failure, for example. Gattaca was much more tame, but the principles are the same. AI, on the other hand, as shown by HAL in 2001's A Space Odyssey, there's not a lot of history there. AI is relatively new. We have literary plots revolving around AI. The Jewish Golem, for one, which was a story about a creature of clay coming to life. And then we also have the story of Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, of course. But up until the 1950s, we did not have a modern interpretation of AI, such as computers and such, things similar to that, as shown by Knitzer and his research done with his colleagues. Now, going into the accuracy of these movies in today's standards, let's go back to AI. AI has grown exponentially. You may be very shocked to realize that you have AI and you're dependent on AI, possibly. Many are, but the one example that I can think of is your virtual assistant.
I'm here.
Hi, Siri.
Hello there.
Very similar to Hal, if you don't mind me saying. With this, we've seen how AI has taken over our lives, and it will continue to do so. Of course, why wouldn't it not? But recent research done shows that we have been unable to program morals into AI, which is exactly why HAL in 2001 killed that astronaut. Now, with this lack of morals, it can lead to devastating consequences. Now, going back to Gattaca here, eugenics, another example. We don't have eugenics in our common society nowadays, after learning from Nazi Germany the consequences. But we have U.S. laws stating you cannot discriminate on genetics. And then we also have, now recently, thanks to COVID-19, some developments in that area which are kind of frightening and eerily similar. In the movie, many would identify themselves with their blood. Now, with COVID time, we have people identifying their antibodies with their blood, and employers can see this information and tell them whether or not they are liable to work. Now, with this, I want to conclude by saying I don't think science is always a detriment to humanity. Andromeda Strain shows that it can be helpful or beneficial. it saved humanity in that movie, and 2001 shows it can evolve humanity. But these examples from these movies, 2001 showing AI and Gattaca showing eugenics, show that we should always be cautious of our scientific advancement because it can be a detriment and it can lead to the undoing of humanity through advancement.